Hello and welcome back to Golf Around. I'm Squirmy and today we're going to be looking at the editor. So let's dive right in. Okay, so this is the main editor screen. So we'll just quickly run over the options and things that are available on here. So we'll start with File. This allows you to create a new course. Open will allow you to open a course you've already been developing and saved. The Save option, which will allow you to save the map. Save As, which will allow you to name and save the map. Save and Publish, that will allow you to save a complete map and publish it to the workshop on Steam. And Exit, that will exit the editor. Options menu. This gives you the options for the map that you're creating, so you can set the pars on all 18 holes. You can write a brief description for everything that you need to notify the user that's going to download it. Change the skybox. Set if there is or isn't water on the map. If you leave it as default ticked, this happens. Which means if the ball goes off the course and lands on the floor, it will class as being out of bounds with being in water, rather than out of bounds with just being on the ground. So what we need to do, if you're going to use the water feature, I tend to set this as -1. That then sets the level or the height of the water. 0 is naturally the ground level, so I set it 1 unit just below, which gives you this effect. The water is there, it's just not visible until you penetrate the surface with the terrain tool. The other option you have under options is the editor option itself. Position snap gives you 1, so that will smooth it direct straight to the piece you've previously laid. Rotation snap, that will rotate for every 45 degrees. Scale snap, 0.5. So that will accurately place an object back to back, so you can actually continue to edit your map with no gaps or issues. The help option, there is editor instructions. These are quite basic and they are thorough with the information that's on there. Clicking that will then take you to a link on the actual workshop for you to read the editor instructions. The other options we have here, as you can see, is Play and Untitled. Play will allow you to play back any of the map that you've actually currently created, and the Untitled part, once we save the map and give it a name, will display that the next time you launch it. In the top right hand corner, you have the options for Objects or Terrain. Objects, this will basically allow you to take a piece or one of the tiles. We'll just position this so we can see this in action. So what you can do is, with the arrow selection, you can actually grab the tile, move it around left, right, up and down, backwards and forwards. This option allows you to rotate in any direction that you want, remembering this is set at 45 degrees increments. So you can actually change it however you like. And this option allows you to stretch the actual objects. Some pieces will change in different ways in comparison to others. It's best just to actually find out, give it a go, see what works best. Alternatively, what you can do is set the position manually by typing in. As for instance, the rotation hadn't reset back to its default position or rotation. And then what you can do is also scale it up manually. But in this this case, what we will do is we'll just go through the basic functions, and we won't change anything, just to get you off the ground running to build your own map. The snap option here is currently ticked. I would advise when you're actually creating the maps, leave that ticked. So when you get another piece, it will automatically line up perfectly. You'll just need to put it into the place it needs to be at and how you want the actual course to look. If it's unticked, you end up being able to move things incrementally, and as you can see, certain positionings don't quite match. What I would suggest is leaving the snap tool on so that all your parts and pieces connect together without leaving gaps or additional edges that can destroy the game when it's actually in progress. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove these pieces now. So it is literally just a case of select the piece that you want to remove, hit the delete key, and we're going to do that so we've got a complete blank canvas yet again. The terrain function, this is set so you can actually change how the landscape looks. You can raise and lower. The longer you leave your finger on the mouse, the higher the terrain gets. You can change the brush size. And the power of the brush will actually lift up the map. Have the options to change the shape and the style of how the actual terrain changes. This moment we've got it classed as cylindrical, so that gives us the round look. Square is exactly what it says. It's a square. And then we have one that looks a little bit like, I would say, a pyramid. Have the option to paint. Again, you can change the brush size and shape, and then we can set it to any of the options that we have there. We have stone as one option, something that looks a little bit Tron-esque, very futuristic. Snowy and sandy. Each one will mask over the top of the previous one and will automatically blend between. Very useful tool if you're going to do anything particularly artistic whilst actually creating the map. We have a set height tool. This will allow us to change the standard height of the terrain if you want to lift it up and be specific at a height. Again, changing the brush size and how quickly it will actually raise the ground up, and with the shapes as well. What we're going to do in this instance, just raise it up to 5. As you can see, it's raised it straight away to that particular height level. So we're going to set it back to 0. Brush size 45. And clear away what we've just created. I need to mention the control aspects because this is perhaps slightly tricky in one aspect, but once you get used to it, it's just becomes muscle memory. Using WASD, you can move W forward, S backwards, A left, D right. Using the right mouse click and holding it down and moving the mouse allows you to turn the actual camera that you're operating around, look up, look down. Spacebar will raise the height of the camera view. Control key will lower it, and then holding shift whilst right clicking and moving forward will make it move at a faster speed. What we're going to do is just reset these back to where they were. You also have the option to smooth the height. This will allow you to, for instance, if we have any sharper objects that we don't want to create whilst we're doing the terrain, we can go to smooth height and it will take away those edges and blend it down. Very useful for when you're actually wanting to create a map with different height terrains, different level sizes. Very useful. We'll just reset it back. And away we go. I'm going to clip it back to objects. This will take us back to the screen where we have items that we can now layer. The default options, this gives you the basic 9 options of types of tile sets. So we have the inbuilt village, dungeon, snowy, etc. Each one of those looks slightly different. So the tile sets are for village, green, dungeon, blue, snowy, white with light blue, lab, white with cream, vapor, etc, etc. Each one of these tile sets comes with its own variation of bound boxes, bound walls, custom text that you can add in. You can add that in, type your message, change its color, the font type, and again you can set the orientation, size, etc. above manually by typing the numbers in the box or doing it freehand using these selections. The options for the tiles to actually create a map. The default start position is 4 units high. So if we start with this one, back so we can actually move it. The options of floor tiles. These are just basically the top surface without any particular object underneath. Edges. So we can create our own ways of working. Again, you can rotate them manually. And when you get used to how the rotations works on X, Y, and Z, you can just edit them straight in. Place it where you want to, snap being enabled, go straight into place, perfectly straight and lined. The options of the walls, so if you wanted to create anything intricate that isn't just a standard tile, you can create walls so it actually looks like it is. The other option contains some other specific types of tile sets that you can use. These will go into later as we go through and create different actual maps for this. Have environment pieces. This allows us to decorate the surroundings. These all start at the height of 4, so it's 4 units above. So as it's currently set, this will be 4 units higher than the ground. Change this, what you can do is on the position where it says 4 here on the y-axis, 0, that will put it down to the ground. If you want to set it so all the pieces start at that particular height, go to the start Y position, set that to 0, whatever piece you choose next, will be on the ground. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we've got use of the editor, we know what things are doing. What we're going to do is simply create our first little course, something basic and simple. Oh, because we've set it to 0, the starting position, it's actually at the level of the floor. We don't want this. Press 4, set start height on there. As we've already laid the piece in, we can reset the height by highlighting it. And if we want to, we can raise it manually that way. What we're going to do, we're going to start everything basic and simple. So we've placed our first piece. We'll choose our second piece. And this is our end piece. Now all of the tiles will come out in a default way. They are all set to work or be distributed facing a particular way. As we can see, our end piece with the back has come out, and that will prevent us from actually completing this course. What we're going to do is we're going to rotate it. We can actually rotate it this way. Or we can actually type it in direct, hit return. Again, this is something that you will get used to the more you use the editor. So as you can see, we have our first course with an endpoint, which we can even change the color of the flags if we wish. So we'll need a start point. So from here, we'll need to go special, spawn point, place it onto the map where we want it. Again, we can rotate the piece using the rotate option, or we could have just gone directly into the rotation segment on Y and done 90. So to test this out, all we need to do now, click play, and the standard rules will be required. And there we go. So what we can do now is to make the next hull, what we'll do, we'll grab a starting point, an additional piece, and we'll make this one a little bit more tricky. We'll add a raised part. And the flag, what we'll need to do is rotate that 180 degrees back on itself, so the actual edge piece is here, prevent the ball rolling away. Back to special, placing the spawn point on, and what we'll do is we'll rotate this one round annually. Too far. And that was a very good example of if you are not clicking on the right piece to rotate, always advisable, click off something and then go back to clicking onto it to make sure you have got the right part. So what we can do now is test that. When we test it this time, because it's recognized there is more than one hole available, we can change which hole we want to test. We'll go to hole 2, click OK, and give it a test. So now we have 2 holes as a start. What we could do is if we go to options, map options, the default is set to 2 strokes for the par, but as we just tested it, we know we can do it in 1. We can set them to 1. Click OK. Give that a quick test again. Only this time what we'll do is we will deliberately miss. And as we can see, the scoreboard, par 1, only we took it in 2. Perfect. So now we've got the hang of how to put parts together. What we'll do is we'll do one more that's a little bit more tricky. Starting piece. An extended part. Do is we'll add a raised piece, and again this is facing the wrong way, so we'll rotate it. Additional part, and as we can see, because it's all starting at for height on the y-axis, we can do this two ways. We can raise it up, set it manually, and if we want to stay at this height, we will set the start position to 8. So any additional part that we put on will start at the same height. And we'll put in the spawn location. This will start at 8 in height. What we can do, reset that manually. Move it to the position we want. Turn it 90 degrees. Done. Registers as par, as it took us 2 shots. So what we can do is go into the options, map options, and we can change the par. It can be done in 1 shot, but we'll leave it at 2 just to make sure it's fair. This has been a quick utilization and showing of how to create a map in the Golf Around editor. Just a simple case of going out there, playing it, and seeing how well you get on with this. What we can do now, we're going to go File, Save As, give it a name, and now we've saved it. What we can do now, click in Exit, take us back to the main screen. We can now click on Editor again, Start, and just verify it has saved, and prove that it will open up again. And there's our map. And on that, I will leave you there. Go and have a play, see what you can come up with, test everything, and hopefully we'll be playing some of your maps soon. I'm Square Maruta, and this has been the basic Golf Around editor. See you next time.